actual effects of the drug itself.
Yeah, and it may be useful just to describe the differences of the placebo and nocebo effects. I know the way I would look at it is the nocebo effect is said to occur when negative expectations of a patient regarding a treatment cause the treatment to have a more negative effect than it otherwise would have had. But what's kind of fascinating is that this happens naturally and subconsciously, and without really our own intervention, which is probably maybe a good thing. But can you describe some of the differences, for listeners of the placebo and nocebo effect?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're totally right. They're just opposite phenomenon in a way, but through the same mechanism. So the placebo effect is where you have positive expectations that can relieve symptoms. The nocebo effect is where you have negative expectations that can exacerbate symptoms or create new symptoms in themselves. So placebo comes from the Latin for I shall please, nocebo is from I shall harm. But what we know is that actually that all the physiological mechanisms are all very similar for both of these. It's just whether it's improving your condition or making your condition worse.
Yeah.
So, these are things like the levels of inflammation within your body. Inflammation can just make you feel really poorly. And, it can bring out rashes, all of these things that can make you feel nauseous. We know that expectations can shape that in both directions. It can increase inflammation or decrease inflammation. The same with things like the levels of neurotransmitters in our brains. So we know that if you have positive expectations, you think you've received a painkiller, even if you've received a placebo pill, that actually those positive expectations can encourage the brain to produce its own endogenous opioids. So those are natural painkillers. If you have negative expectations of pain, if someone's telling you that actually this injection is going to hurt a lot more than it really does, well, it has the opposite effect in the brain, and it actually increases levels of a neurotransmitter called CCK that amplifies painkillers. So, yeah, it's all, in these cases there may be a subjective component, but we know that there's all of these objective physiological changes happening, and it's really a spectrum.
Yeah, and